Alright, Kiss Army, it's time to drop the needle, kiss my wax.
Alright everybody, welcome to episode 9 of Kiss My Wax. Just want to give a shout out to John Humphrey who sat in with us last week. It was a great guest and we've had great response to the episode. So we're going to do something very similar to that again. We're just going to get right into this pretty quickly, but as you can see on our screen, we have, we'll call him the world-famous Kiss collector from three sides of the coin, Mr. Mark Cicchini, everybody.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. Love you guys. Love your show. Think you guys are all great guys, and very happy to be here. So thanks for it's an honor to be asked. So
yeah. Absolutely. When we started talking about having people, come on the show and show their collections and stuff, your name was at the top of the list. So we definitely want to have you on. But
I was looking for my Kiss Video King little fanzine. I have one of those.
Oh man, you should have.
One.
I'm telling you, back in the day, it was before it was obviously before internet. Thousands on my list. And it was just insane. I was going so crazy selling audio and video.
Yeah.
Go to my post office box. I'd call my wife, and I have everything numbered. And Andrew's been to my house. He's seen my whole wall of it. And I'd just go, I need whatever numbers. I'd give her a dozen numbers. And I had a dozen VHSs stacked upon one another. And she would just run them. I'd come home, and then we'd do it the next day. It was a nice little business.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I remember, all the way back then buying from you and Peter Arquette all the time, man. My whole entire bootleg collection was from you two guys. So
all good people, man. I tell you, I love Peter. He was just on our show recently.
Yeah,
great guy.
Yeah,
I was real happy.
He had a really great bomb to drop about the Lick It Up album cover, about the being a mannequin.
Yeah. So anyway, before we get into talking to Mark about stuff, does anybody have anything to open?
Since I don't want to make the same mistake I did last time, I already opened it, but through a trade, I got the best of the solo albums.
All right.
So it's in pretty
That's
nice
cool.
shape. So, and then I got something coming from Japan that's not here yet, so maybe I'll show it on the next show.
Okay. My wife, as some may remember, my wife is a mail carrier, so she texted me today and said, hey, it looks like I've got some records for you. At least it says records on the outside. So I've been trying to collect all of these Dutch picture discs, and our friend Nolan, who's on the page, has sold me several of them at very good prices. Anyway, he's sent me 2 more today. I just got them in. So
wow.
I'm going to open them up.
Yeah, but see, Jason, you shouldn't open anything up on the show anymore because you'll never beat my opening from the Destroyer episode.
All right, so, and these are numbered. So I got
the
first one, number 537, and I got Destroyer.
Nice, that's really cool.
Beautiful.
Number 1403. So now I'm just waiting for creatures. I found. I know I told y'all about our deal with my purchase yesterday or a couple days ago. That the H&H marketing picture disc came when I thought I was buying.
And you know that was just that was an honest mistake.
That was an honest mistake. That's why I'm not saying where it came from.
Yeah,
so
it was an honest mistake.
Because they're, everything's all fixed and they're sending me a call tag and I'm sending it back.
I know those guys really well, the guys from H&H.
Yeah, but the next day I got on eBay and someone was offering a Creatures picture disc, low number for $150 or best offer, and I offered him $100 and he took it. So So I have Creatures coming. So the last one is Animalize, and I'll have them all finally. So.
One more thing, I just want to do another quick shout out. I'm wearing their shirt today, so I want to give a shout out to the Anti-Queens. So they're a great band out of Toronto, Canada. So you should all check them out.
And one more thing,
Kiss
My Wax slip mats are in, and so if you want to purchase one of these, first of all, thank you to everyone. I think we've actually sold, of the 100 that I ordered, about 33 of these, I believe. We're going to hold back about 10 or 15 to do some giveaways with and different promotional things. But we'll still have these for sale. Domestically, they're $17. That includes shipping. And internationally, $25. That also includes shipping. You can send a PayPal payment to contact@kissmywax.net. I'll have the information under the video once we get it aired. But thanks to everyone who's bought one so far. I'll start shipping them this coming week. And that's all I've got for show and tell.
Same.
So
I got nothing.
You got nothing?
I got nothing.
All right. Well, let's get to Mark then. Mark.
Yes.
Everybody knows that you're a giant Kiss collector, and everybody knows that you've been in this game for a long time, but I don't know, and I would like to know how you got into Kiss.
Well, they were really big here in Detroit out of the gate. I became aware. I have an older brother and older sister, and they were really into music, and really we all were. I mean, Detroit, obviously the Motown connection. CKLW was a big radio station, and if you know anything about Alice Cooper, that's how Alice broke, because in order to break the band, they had to have Canadian content, and Bob Ezrin was Canadian, and CKLW went, I think, as far south at the time. I want to say Atlanta, and it hit, Cincinnati, Chicago, Detroit, Toronto, Cleveland, almost all the way to New York. It was a big signal. And the reason I bring up CKLW is that was everything here in Michigan when you in the area that I grew up in. And roller skating was a big thing. And so I was really into music as a young kid. Again, older brother, older sister, they were bringing records in. My older brother bought Hotter Than Hell when it was new. And in 74, I was 9. And I was really into like Universal Monsters, really, really into it. Very much like Gene, actually. I've talked to him about that. I had all the books, Famous Monsters of Filmland, all that stuff. And then I saw this, and the visuals really matched the music, and I was hooked. Because, like I said earlier, roller skating was a big thing. And when you roller skated, I remember vividly requesting Smoke on the Water and The Sweet and Alice Cooper and Bachman Turner Overdrive, because that was stuff that was big at the time. So I liked harder music. Of course, at the time, I didn't know what, I just knew what sounded good.
Sure.
So, all of a sudden, fall of 74, my older brother gets Hotter Than Hell. And you're staring at the cover and you're like, wow, this is great. And obviously things like Parasite resonated. And it really, from there, it was big at my school. Just kind of all happened naturally, Well, like I said, it really tied in with my love for Universal monster models and building monster models and the monster movies and Toho and Godzilla and all that stuff. Like I said, I had a kind of a very similar vibe that Gene had. I was really into that thing. So yeah, that's how I got into Kiss. It was through my older brother and my older sister.
Very cool. Very cool. And so,
you guys haven't seen Mark's house, but even aside from the Kiss stuff, it's a real cool to see just the collection and the variety of music that's just there. Like all the CDs and all the other bands. Kiss is definitely represented, but there are so many other bands and so many releases that it's actually really cool just to sit there and just look at that wall. You know the wall I'm talking about when you get down in your basement.
Well, that's before we're getting on. That's what I wanted to tell you. I brought like a half dozen of my favorite Kiss vinyl. Mm-hmm. But since, I do this kind of thing with Three Sides too. I realize that everybody who's watching right now, and obviously this is a vinyl podcast.
Right.
But there's going to be younger guys who didn't know what it was like to start collecting and the joy and the love and the things you have to look for. So not only Kiss, I brought a few things when it comes time in the show to kind of show you what got me interested, because it wasn't, as Andrew said, it wasn't just Kiss. There was a time in my life where I collected everything like Kiss, meaning, my whole house in the basement is just a Kiss shrine. My wife's always been really cool about, everything. It's funny because, Andrew's been in my house. So in my basement, which is now, as you can see, some of it, this is just the interior of I have a whole nother room. And that's where my Kiss room.
So this isn't even your Kiss
No,
list behind.
this is nothing. This is the outside.
Huh.
That's the stuff that doesn't fit inside the Kiss room.
Correct. It's like it's the basement that threw up Kiss, and then I've got 2 more rooms that have stuff that aren't displayed. It's just in boxes.
Right.
So, and that goes to like, and you know, if anybody here is watching from Three Sides, or eventually I'm going to have to sell all this stuff just because I don't want to saddle my family with it. You know, I'm 50. Yeah. When I get older, I don't want to have to. I want to travel, and I don't want to have to worry if my basement's never flooded, but I mean,
you never know.
Yeah, there's no guarantees in life, man. And I you know, we joke about stuff, how much things worth. I don't have to a penny, but I know how much I've spent on all this.
Right.
I know that it's worth something. That's all.
It's worth something to you, and that's more than it means that it's actually worth something. You know, dollars.
Amen. I always tell people what I would pay $1,000 for. My next door neighbor wouldn't walk across the street to pick it out of the garbage.
Right. I've heard you say that 1,000 times.
Yeah. And it's true. It's 100%
of course it's true. Of course it's true.
Because that's how come I don't have an insurance rider on this. I give the insurance companies enough money. I don't need, you know.
Right.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you that question because it's outrageous.
It's near impossible to insure something like that. You know,
my costumes, I have the original receipts. Okay, I mean, I have original receipts for some things, but you know, right now I'm looking at over here. J.R. Smalling, I bought off him his gold record he got for Alive. I don't have a receipt for that.
Yeah, right. Right.
And put it this way, my next door neighbor wouldn't give you $5 for that.
Yeah.
But I could probably sell it to somebody who's into it. This stuff, I could probably sell it for a good amount of money.
Yes.
Well, I mean,
that's my point.
The thing too is that if you take out insurance on there, the insurance company is going to replace it. Some of that stuff can't be replaced.
Correct.
So how are you going to value it if it can't be replaced?
They're not going to replace it. They're going to give you money. I've got a friend that actually had his basement get some water in it, and he had a lot of posters. It wasn't Kiss stuff, but a lot of posters, and they sat on the floor, and they sucked that water right up. And if it was, you know, he was able to go out and find values for them. And let's say it was a $600 poster. They gave him whatever the percentage value of it was, and then told him keep the poster. So he ended up doing all right with it. But, you know, most people don't want to look at that. You know, it's tough, man. It's tough. You know, you say, Mark, it's like, you know, price guides are dead now because of eBay. You know, and having written a couple of them, the whole reason for me having, you know, looked at what is the value of these was really more to help people, to keep people from getting ripped off. Let's say when you start getting into guitar picks, you know, there's a hell of a price range between a reunion guitar pick for Ace Frehley. You know, there's some that are worth $900 and some are worth $500, and just flat out they are worth that. But you know, that doesn't mean that you're going to get it if you've got one and you're trying to sell it. That means you're probably going to pay it unless you luck up on it. But the main thing is to keep some fairly new to the hobby person from being ripped off for $300 on a $9 pick, you know. So, but you're right. As far as go ahead.
I use price guides not so much for the prices, but to tell me what's out there. I loved your fascinating.
Yeah.
See all the variations. I will tell you that one of the things I admire about your podcast in general is, and I said this when Tom was on our show. I wish I could be like you. This is insane because, I mean, you know, look around here. It's nuts. I wish I had the patience to do what you do. I think that's fascinating to be so into Kiss vinyl that you have to have 20 copies of the first record because there's one minute thing different. That would drive me fucking crazy.
Get out the calipers. Let's measure.
Man. Yeah, that's right.
But see, I want to be that guy. I wish I had that sort of. I don't. You know, it's funny because with like my vinyl, I've never replaced the Destroyer that I have is the Destroyer that I bought in '76. Covers beat, okay, but it's fucking mine. That's the one I went to the store and bought. And from Love Gun on,
I got one of those.
From Love Gun on,
I
bought every Kiss album the day it came out, from 1977 on.
Right.
Bought it the day it came out. So I have original pressings on everything. Some of the covers, you know, hey, I played the shit out of them and it looks like it. So, you know, but they're mine. And that's the whole thing with Kiss collecting for me. Yeah. I never collected one thing to sell it. It's a vacuum.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't go out.
No, and I'm the same way, Mark. Although I've gotten a hell of a deal on something, and dude, that has just sparked me to go deep into that area. You know, like once you find something and get a crazy good deal on it, for me, man, I got to go after that whole area. Like when I started on the toys in the early '90s, it was because it was a weird you're talking about a weird convolutions of events. I went to an antique show in a tobacco warehouse, and I'm going through there, and I'm looking at some guy's got some bootleg records, and he's got the one with the lunchbox on it.
Yeah,
and so yeah, and so I looked at that, and I told him, I said, I bought one of those the other day, that lunchbox. I had actually, my brother had told me about this lunchbox, original lunchbox, sitting on the shelf in a pharmacy. Had been sitting there since day one it was put on the market. And I bought that thing for like $12. And all it had was just shelfware. And even back in the early 90s, that thing was worth a lot of money. And, you know, it just sparked me, man, because I'm going, wow, I got the hard one now. I need to go get the other stuff, you know?
Right.
But that's just some kind of weird psychological thing out
there.
Oh, yeah.
We call that a disease.
Yeah.
You certainly have a disease.
I will tell you, you guys are certainly included in this. The best part about Kiss collecting is meeting people.
Sometimes.
All over the world now, literally all over the world now. Yeah. Good people that I've now physically met through the cruises and
sure.
Yeah.
That I never would have known. You know, that ultimately is the coolest part about this.
Sure.
And now, I mean, no different than you guys do. You know, every week you get to talk to, you know, you interact with more people. That's because I'm a people person. I'm obviously, you know, you guys have known me well enough that I'm not shy. I'm very talkative, opinionated, but it's fun. You know what I mean? It's a lot of fun. And, you know, this is the good stuff. So
Mark, did you ever tell the story about how we met on the cruise?
The hamburger story?
Not the hamburger story. That was the second. This is on Kiss Cruise 2. We could tell that one too. But this is a funny story. You know, Mark and I never met, but we have all the same friends. So on the cruise, I just was hanging out with my friend Russell, and Russell was like, "Hey, Mark has everything, you know, as far as Kiss bootlegs go." So I was just like, "Oh yeah, whatever." And somehow, some way, we ended up. I snuck down closer to the stage, like the second or third row. I think it was the second show on Kiss Cruise 2. I wasn't supposed to be there. And I'm a little guy. So some fan gets the hold of security, is like, hey, this guy doesn't have a seat. Get him out of here. So what do? I jump on the other side of Mark, and they didn't kick me out. They never found me.
Still looking for him in the shadow.
Yeah. So and that's how. So then he's like, I think it's when I'm like, hey, you're Russell's friend. I go, yeah. And then we just started talking, and then, you know, we found each other on Facebook, and he's like, hey, you got to come up and see. And
we've been dating ever since.
We've been dating.
You've been dating ever since.
Now, the funniest story is the hamburger story. You guys know the hamburger story? Obviously,
no.
You do.
I don't know the hamburger story. Tell it.
You tell him.
All right, the hamburger story. We're sitting in line to get onto the Kiss cruise, and my wife looks over, and she knows him, you know, Andrew. And she's like, why does he have a hamburger on his arm? And I said, what? Says he's got that guy with the tattoo of the hamburger.
and
keep my point right next to one another. We were, you know, whatever. So, you know, a few yards away from him. And I said, what? She goes, that hamburger, it looks like a hamburger in a bun. I'm like, you know, my wife is just going to the Kiss cruise because she gets to lay out in the sun and drink.
Yeah.
She doesn't know that Peter Criss has a drum tattoo like that. I said it's a fucking drum with a lightning bolt coming out of it. I go, it's like Peter Criss. So if you've ever seen on Facebook the interaction with the hamburger stuff, that's what that's all about.
I get it now. That is funny.
Yeah, it was real funny, and it's got some legs. It still goes to this day.
Yeah, she still calls me Burger Boy.
Burger Boy. So
God, that is funny.
Good times, good times.
Yeah. So, anyways, you guys, I brought some vinyl, and I don't know. This is just. Well, let me start by saying I used to collect the bootleg vinyl the way, I collect all this stuff. Out of all the stuff that I've ever had, the bootleg vinyl was stuff that I actually bought and then sold. Give you a look, because I always say timeline is everything.
Right.
It's true.
I was ready to move in 98. I had, Stoned in Paris and Fried Alive and all those great, great classic bootlegs. But at that time, especially at the conventions, where I was basically living or traveling, a couple times a month year round, the vinyl just, no one cared because everybody was burning CDs and everyone, and keep in mind too, the advent of the CDs, all of a sudden when somebody had one better copy of a cassette or a record, now everybody had the better one. It really, because if you guys remember in the old tape trading days, if somebody used non-biased tapes, remember that? You're like, oh, Jesus Christ.
Why the fuck did you tape this in EP?
Correct. But that was the problem. So, in the late 90s, before I moved to where I live now, when we built this house, I had so many boxes of vinyl, and I'm like, I don't listen to these anymore. I now have them all on CD. Just carrying them around. They're heavy. They're cumbersome. They take up room. I sold everything for fucking pennies on the dollar. Fast forward now, boy, oh boy, those original vinyl records, mine were all from the 70s and 80s. All of them were. But keep in mind, this was 1998. They couldn't be from the new school guys who are printing them all at home. So, yeah, so I'm kicking myself. But anyways, I got rid of all my bootleg vinyl. So what I did is, and I'm going from, none of the, one is kind of, I always thought this was cool. You guys probably.
Oh, yeah. I want one of those. You showed me that the last time I was there.
Yeah, and I think, boy, Tommy's going to get pissed. I'm opening something.
We didn't even have to ask.
Now, everybody knows to have a legit one.
It's got to have that little smear in there.
Got to have the smear. Smear present.
Got the pap smearing off ice right in there.
Yep. Now, these, I think, recently... These are becoming the new Kiss Alive 2 misprints because they say there was ever, I think it's right on here, or wherever, 800.
800.
Yeah, on the front here, 800. Boy, oh boy, seems like I know 1,000 people with them, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Just like those.
I want one.
You don't have one?
No, I don't have one.
These are pretty common. I mean, when I say common, you shouldn't have too hard of a time finding these.
No.
No. I love these.
That's a cool one.
I love it because of the. Now, do you guys want to show the labels and stuff? I mean, this is a vinyl podcast. Did you guys already do these?
No, we haven't actually gotten to. Well, the first Kiss Last Licks doesn't fit in anything yet, and we haven't done Rock and Roll Over yet.
This just has the regular. Can you see the?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The regular Camel label.
Yeah, but it's got the promotional, not for sale, radio airplay, that kind of stuff.
And the catalog number on the label does not match the spine.
Like I'd even pay attention to that.
Well, Tom knows.
Man.
That's what I mean. Man. I wish I could be that. Although I do know this, you had to have they did come with a sticker too.
Yeah. A lot of people say it didn't, but every
did.
copy I've gotten did.
Yep.
Mine came with a sticker too, and I got mine right from a radio guy.
Yep.
Always love these.
That's another great one.
Like I said, these are just fun. I like having them. They sound good too. I mean,
but they took a lot of care pressing the ones that were going out for promos at radio stations. They didn't want to send a bad copy out to them.
Yeah, that label is just fucking sweet looking.
Yeah, we discussed that. Yeah, we used that we talked about that on the Destroyer episode with James Campion. Of course, we showed that up close. Tom talks about how the bottom part of the picture on that label is drawn in because you can't stand on those boots that Gene has on. But we also use that in some of our logos. We have our logo stamped over that particular center ring photo. So
I'm not going to go too crazy on this, but I've got everything in it. It's just it's just and it doesn't have the OB. But the one I bought, I got it for a really good price, and I love all the goodies in it.
When did you get it?
Oh fuck, 80s.
In the 80s.
Yeah.
Somebody ask him, what'd you have to give for it, man? Because
I didn't want
the bottom is falling out on it. I've admitted what I paid for mine. Mine's got copies of the masks, no OB, and I gave like $350 for that thing.
I know I didn't pay anywhere close to that, but mine just doesn't have the strap. This is cool just for a couple reasons.
Yep. Love that record.
I got a great story about that record too.
It's in great fucking shape. The one that I have, and Peter, I sat and talked to Peter for a while, and he signed my. I'm not a big autograph guy, but just sitting to him, talking to him about this and everything, and just kind of cool.
Yeah. Hey, Mark, is that one a promo copy?
No.
It got a promo sticker on it?
No.
Well, that's rare as hell because you can't hardly find a retail version of that. I don't know what the deal is on that.
And this one here, I know that it's the big boy one, and I know Tom knows that I have it. Probably the coolest Kiss vinyl I own.
Nice.
Damn.
The George Burns record.
I have the content of that. I don't have the record of that.
Yeah, where'd you get that from?
Some guy in Detroit.
Yeah, some guy did. If you guys
got a file of it.
If you've never seen or heard this, this is as close to a piece of vinyl where will ever be able to be a magazine. It's like looking through a 70s era.
No, it's so cool. If anybody hasn't heard it, you need to hear this. This is my favorite 70s Kiss radio thing.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Awesome.
It's awesome. That's another thing. I didn't pay very much for that.
Yeah.
The coolest part, hey, and like I said, I'll probably be selling my stuff in about 5. It's still got the fucking shrink wrap on it.
Wow.
Nice. Yeah, you'll get a lot for it. The thing that blows my mind on that is there are multiple artists that are on that series, and you can find them all the time on eBay, lots of copies. But man, they just must not have pressed very many of those Kiss ones, or else nobody's letting loose of them. It's one of the two.
They're being hoarded for somewhere.
As big as Kiss was at that time in Detroit, I never heard of that until many, many years later. That's from 76.
Yeah.
I didn't hear about that thing. Maybe another 20 years. Jeez. I mean,
that was one of the first things I got. Like when I started collecting bootlegs, I got a really, really generated copy of that on CD, and it was stuck on. I think the first part of the CD was those Rock and Roll rehearsals, not the ones that are out now. These were different and really, really generated and very incomplete, very, very incomplete. I had that, and then that was tacked on there, all as one track too.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Do the math there. I said another 20 years later. You didn't start. It was 96 when. I
started collecting.
He was a wee tot in 96.
I started collecting in 98 is when I started collecting.
So that's my point.
I got a really funny story about the Chelsea record. A friend of mine went and met Peter in the mid 90s, right before the reunion tour, and he had that record with him. Well, he had the sleeve with him. And it was a nice shape, just like yours. But he goes to bring it up to Peter, and Peter signs it, and he goes, "Man, this is worth a lot." So I guess Peter was talking to someone in his band across the room, and he starts going, "You know what this is worth?" and starts shaking it around. And my friend's just like, he bent and he ruined it. He completely ruined it. Just shook the shit out of it. There's all bend marks, and
I got a similar story. I was getting my first Kiss promo poster, the orange one with Peter with the. Which is over there. I was getting that signed, and I had Ace sign it once, like beforehand. And Gene picks it up, and he looks at me like, he goes, "You know how much this is worth, don't you?" Like, sign it, it's mine. Anyway, anyways, we were talking. I brought those are like some of my favorite Kiss vinyls. I hope you guys have seen them.
Oh, great, man!
But as you're collecting vinyl is fun, and one of the things I used to like looking for when I was, first getting into it was like, now this is these are not Kiss, but these are some of my favorites. Old school 70s Aerosmith bootleg.
Yeah.
This is from a radio. They just transcribed it off of a radio station.
Right.
I love these old paper sleeves. Yes, just like that, Andrew. You know how cool those? That's why I don't like the new ones.
And look.
Yes, exactly. So that's what I mean. Just finding stuff like that was like a big deal. And then as I started to find, from bootlegs, then I started going to these sorts of things. The BBC transcription.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
That is cool.
Now, keep in mind, I have like this. This is not commercially released. Right, this is a Bon Scott era show. There's a lot of bootlegs of this, but I also have Deep Purple and. If you look at a lot of bands, Kiss is not one of them, but if you look at a lot of bands, if you go and look in the BBC archives, you can find some kick-ass shit that you never even knew existed.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
This is, again, going to record shows. This is years ago where I found stuff like that. And, of course, that then goes to stuff like this. Old Black Sabbath. Now, keep in mind, this is the Die Young single when Heaven and Hell first came out, right when Dio joined. This record was not a hit yet. And it's got the coolest live version of Heaven and Hell on it, which, as far as I know, is not on CD anywhere. This is, I think, a single from France. The UK. But very cool. Like I said, I'd start digging through stuff like that. And one thing led to another. Here's another great example. Now, granted, years ago, the Unleashed in the East record, but I didn't know about the Priest in the East record when I bought this. Unleashed in the East, actually, in Japan, was longer than the United States version. Now, this is really cool. This is how this came. You got the record. You had the regular record that came out. The Epic record. Then they added a 45 in it.
Awesome.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and on the sleeve, this is where I had to take it off of so I could play it.
Interesting.
Huh.
Because on the U.S. version, didn't have Hellbent for Leather, Starbreaker. What else? It was like 4 tunes. Rock Forever and Delivering the Goods. The Japanese version did. And again, I would not have known had I not been going to record shows and stuff like that. So this is like a super duper, like, if you're into, again, I'm really into hard rock collecting.
Right.
And like I said, if you like old Judas Priest, that's just something cool to have.
That's a good piece.
Thanks. That's a lot.
And Mark's played me some really cool Motley Crue stuff. He's played me some, he got me into the Babies.
Oh, great band.
Oh, I like the Babies, yeah.
Here's something really cool, and it's funny because you guys know that I'm not a big hair metal fan, but I always got to adjust that because some bands who get labeled hair metal to my ears are not hair metal.
Like Cinderella.
I
love Cinderella.
In full disclosure, I'm a huge hair metal fan.
We don't hold that against you.
Pussycat.
That's all right.
Fucking rules. Now, you get this live Faster Pussycat show, and I'm looking at it because I'm going through the records. This is, again, I bought this mid-90s, early 90s. I'm going through it, and like I said, I love the first record, and this is from the first record tour, and I'm like, what the hell's Lied Your Way to Heaven? That's not on the first record. It's not on any of the records. Sure enough, what a kick-ass tune live on a radio. This is an actual Westwood One.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Always pays to read the songs. This great stuff. Great. If you ever hear, if you like Faster Pussycat or like
love Faster Pussycat.
That song Lied Your Way to Heaven is so cool. They never did there's demos of it. I now have a demo of it, but that's how I even found out the song existed. They played it that way.
There's a Motley Crue song like that too called Running Wild in the Night that is on one of the Westwood One tapes.
Now, then I got into, from that radio broadcast, I got in. How cool is this? This is an old Ted Nugent one, but it's in a. Look at the fucking. It's got. It's a big cardboard box. You know, these big sheets. It tells you the commercial format and, you know, all this.
That's cool as hell.
Oh, that's really cool.
Great. And then just as a, you know, as a geeky fan collector, keep in mind this is a live broadcast. Look at the label. I mean, that's a fucking awesome. You know, if someone took,
they went all out. They went all out.
Well, that's my point. If you figure if someone takes their time to present that radio show in a box like this with all that information, the audio is going to match, and sure as hell it did. Staying on my favorite Uncle Ted, the older guys here, not so much. Double Live Gonzo is one of my favorite records of all time. Yeah. This is mega rare, just for the fact that, well, it looks like the normal version, right?
Except for black and white.
Black and white.
Yeah. They edited out all the swear, like before Wang Dang Sweet Poontang does that whole thing's edited, so you can play this on the radio without any swear words.
Ah, gotcha.
Curses his balls off through this whole record, but it's presented and it's not a gatefold. It's just with two records in it. But as far as promotional stuff, this is the only one I've ever seen, and it's, you know, it came from a radio station. It's, you know, all kind of ring-warmed, what do you call that? All worn out. And then finally, another big reason why I started collecting vinyl, because Bruce Dickinson is still the new guy to me. I got into Maiden on the first and second records, and getting the, you know, Drifter and Phantom of the Opera live, you know, these old singles.
Yeah.
These have since been, you know, re-put out on CD and all this other stuff, but, you know, I got these when I was a kid, and I was a big, you know, reading Kerrang, and that's how I got into all that stuff. So, you know, like I said, not just Kiss. Kiss got me into everything else in a lot of ways. It's almost like a gateway drug, as they say.
Sure.
And that's just like a tip of the iceberg for my vinyl. I've got tons and tons of it.
He really does.
But
he really does.
I'm more so into the songs, though. You know, like the radio broadcasts, all that kind of stuff. A lot of it, though, you know, some of the non-Kiss, or a lot of the non-Kiss I've traded once I got it on CD and stuff. But anyways, yeah, like I said, you know, that's a fun thing about being a music fan. And it's funny, though, too, out of all the musicians and hardcore music people I know, everyone loves Kiss. So cool. Yeah. You know what I mean? Sorry, high school idiots. We were right all along.
That's right. That's right. Right all along.
And I dealt with the same thing just, you know, 20 years later, 20 years after you guys. I mean, I think it might have been worse for me than it was for you guys. It might have been.
There's no way.
Been close.
Yeah,
it was bad, man. It was bad.
No, timeline is everything. Tom, Jason, how old are you, Jason?
I'm 40.
Okay, so you don't.
Well, but still, in 1980, I was bringing Kiss stuff to elementary school and was getting made fun of it because it just, you know, the stigma was still there, but Jason, not as bad.
It's different.
I never caught crap for that.
You never did? Oh,
I always did. Always. To this day.
I tell you what.
This day.
Being a Kiss fan in 1981. I was in 1981. I was 16. I was in 11th grade. Look, wearing a Kiss T-shirt was looked down upon, and like I still did. You know what I mean? I was very lucky that way. I always had a lot of friends. I played sports, all that stuff. But they're like, "You still like that?" I'm like, "Fuck you!" And I always get to those because I'm still friends with a lot of those guys. The same guys who, you know, like, hey, where are you sitting for the Kiss show? Or can you get me tickets? And I'm like, you remember in high school?
Yeah.
Yeah. I always go too. I would love to go back to 1981 and go to my friends, go, look, in the year 2016, Pat Benatar, REO Speedwagon, Styx, and Foreigner could tour together. Kiss could, Kiss is going to have its own cruise ship. The other ones are going to be playing the state fair.
Right.
They would have looked at me like you were crazy. You know what I mean? But that's exactly what happened. Kiss is still, a viable. Again, they're playing in a couple weeks. I'm going down to the show in Florida. They're playing festivals, and don't get me wrong, I love Pat Benatar and Styx. I'm a big Styx fan. Matter of fact, I love all four of those bands I mentioned. Matter of fact, I think Pat Benatar is coming to Windsor, which is just across the river from us, and I'm pretty sure my wife and I'll go.
It's funny.
So
it's funny too because before Mark and I met, we went to a lot of the same shows and just didn't know each other, but we were still at the same shows. Like, I saw the show Cobo Hall in 2009. I saw them in Windsor earlier in 2009. And then, there are probably other shows before that. And even Kiss conventions, too. We all went to the same stuff. Never knew.
Oh, I guarantee you we were all especially us three here, were all in those Kiss conventions. I'm sure you were there, too, Andrew. It's
real little.
It's interesting. Just real little. Yeah.
Real little. I was still there, though. I was still there.
Yeah.
Yeah, those the convention days were fun. The convention days as a dealer were extra fun because, I'm still a hardcore collector. It's cool. I could go there, make money, buy stuff that I wanted, sell off doubles, and come home with a pocket full of money. It was pretty nice.
Yeah,
it was really the best of both worlds. Yeah. And plus, I really liked going to the East Coast because they had a different set of stuff. You know what I mean? That wasn't maybe really popular here in Detroit.
Right.
I found that too because I'm pretty fortunate. I've been able to travel, fair amount of my life, and I used to love going down to the Spencers in Florida and getting the displays because I'd have a hard time getting the displays here. There was so many Kiss collectors and they were driving them crazy. But I go down to, in the Tampa area and St. Pete, and I go back when there was media plays, and they're like, no one asked. I just walked there, and every time I'd end up having to mail a bunch of stuff home. And it was all just displays, you know what I mean? Because in Detroit, there was so many people who wanted them.
That's right.
Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of Kiss fans in Florida too, but nothing like it was up here.
Right.
And I just think that's kind of cool, the regionalness of it all.
Agreed totally.
I mean, I'm a New York guy, so I always had that extra. There were always a ton of New York Kiss fans, and if you look at all those signings that Kiss did, when they weren't touring at the time, between 2001 and 2003, always in New York, always in New York. So I was super fortunate too to be able to do, go to all that stuff and do all those things. Like I got, original 2003 Kiss Symphony flat. Did you guys even know those existed? I didn't. I literally pulled them off of the display. There was a display made, and we all took turns going in. And
Mark's looking.
You want me to go grab mine?
I have a stack of them because I worked in record stores at the time. I have all that old.
That's just one of those things. I've never seen it. I've very rarely seen it for sale.
That the one with the tear-offs?
They had the little tear and the bin cards.
Like I said, that's funny too because I'm not a big autograph guy, but I have one of those autographed by everybody. So yeah, those are
given
cool.
away at the Best Buy in-store in 2003. There, where you got your picture with the band, and they gave you. See, this is really funny. So you'd buy the CD, and they would give you an extra signed insert. So they wouldn't remove the actual booklet in the actual CD. So what did I do? I bought 20 CDs, so I would get 20 booklets, and then I just returned them all to another Best Buy. So I got 20
That's
booklets.
why they're going out of business.
So I had 20 booklets that I sold.
Talk about regional things too, especially at that time. Do you remember when the CD of You Wanted the Best came out? It had the phone card in it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I must have bought a case of those and I sold them to all the fucking foreign dealers. Made a killing. I was buying them all for like $9.99 and I was selling them all for, $25. And they were selling them for $50 in Europe, so everybody made a little bit of money. But back then, before the internet was a big deal, you just did stuff like that. It was so much fun.
Yeah. eBay ruined it all, man.
Well,
eBay and YouTube.
It didn't ruin it. It didn't ruin it, but it changed it for sure. Nobody's going to load all their stuff up and take it in and try to sell it at a convention now. They're just not going to.
I know, it was just so much more fun.
No, what they're going to do is they're going to put an eBay auction up, and then when the eBay auction doesn't sell, they're going to burn whatever they were going to sell in the eBay auction.
There you go.
Eventually, I mean, because I'm going to go to an auction. I refuse to give eBay any money. If you guys, I do very little with eBay.
I don't sell anything there anymore. I still buy stuff. But yeah, man, it's so outrageous now. I mean, what do you lose now? 10%, 12% between
that.
PayPal?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, that's how come PayPal, I think eBay owns PayPal, correct?
They just sold it off.
Yeah.
Did they? Yeah. Because they were double dipping is all they were going to do. Is all they were doing. But hey, you know what? I look at shit like this. If I was there, I'd do the same fucking thing. Nothing wrong with me.
No, there's nothing wrong with them making money at all. You know.
No.
It's business, man.
Well, you know, but man, I don't want to go off on a rant on eBay, but their problem was they kept wanting to get all the money. There were a lot of businesses around the country. I had one for a little bit where you could actually make some money by selling stuff for people that didn't have the skills to put stuff on there.
Right.
But then here they realized that, so that's why they started cranking the rates up. You know, I mean, all of a sudden, if I can't make, you know, I'm not going to say what my percentage was, but if I can't make that, I'm not doing it. You know,
there used to be eBay stores where you could bring your stuff into an eBay store.
Yes.
Not anymore.
Yes.
I don't know why they didn't do that themselves. And that's a totally different thing. But if you want to keep that in the music context, though, look at what the Rolling Stones did with their ticket prices. They basically sold everything at scalper prices.
Yeah.
And when I saw them last summer, it didn't look like it hurt business too bad. And you had a hell of a time finding any bootleg tickets because no one was buying them for $400 in the first place.
Right. That is right.
So, I mean, look, call him a greedy bastard or call him a smart businessman. I'm going with the latter. Yeah, I mean, the Stones got sick of throwing their tickets up for $100, and then everyone's paying $400 for them through the scalpers. They're like, "Fuck it, well, they'll just sell them for $400." Well, you know, you got to look at supply and demand. I went and saw them at Ford Field. That fucking place was packed.
Yep.
And I guarantee those were pretty much everybody bought them right from Ticketmaster.
Yeah.
They cut a lot of them out. Stones are an anomaly because they can do it. You'd have a hard time, you know, Kiss or really anybody doing that.
The Stones, AC/DC, and Guns N' Roses could probably do that.
I don't think the Guns N' Roses tour is going to be anywhere as successful as they think it is.
I don't think it will either. I think people are going to be scared. They're going to put their money down for tickets, and then it's going to evaporate.
Yeah, they look. I was like, I saw them as an opening band. You know, I got into them very, very early. Matter of fact, when I met my wife in January of '88. And one thing she talks about was our first time she ever met us. I was raving about this band called Guns N' Roses, who she'd never heard of. And I'm like, this band's going to be huge. And my buddy and I, when we met him, but she's like, that was the first thing I remember you talking about Guns N' Roses. I'm like, what the fuck's a Guns N' Roses? But you know, I was way into a lot. You know, that was my thing. You know, I've been going to record shows since the early '80s. As long as they've really been taken up. Andrew's come up lots of times. We go record shopping. It's fun, man. It's just a great way to spend an afternoon.
It's fun to watch Mark buy all the stuff, right?
Well, no, he's probably more than I do these days.
Yeah, that's not true because what Mark will do is, since it's in Detroit usually, Mark will get people will recognize him from 3 Signs, or they'll recognize him just from being around in Detroit for so long. So I'll run to the Kiss rack first, and I'll be like, "Hey, look what I got!" And I'll get to it first. There was one time where we went to a record store where he kind of shoved me out of the way to look first. So I go, "All right, whatever, I'll let him have it." But no, it's true. People do that. It's hard to go shopping with other collectors because who's gonna be the one to take the rare thing?
Right.
You know. Yeah. It's just lucky for me that he has so much more than I do. That I'm still trying to fill holes.
Right.
So. Yeah, you know what? My collecting. What did I get recently? Oh Christ! You know what? Tommy just recently gave me. I couldn't believe he did this. It's awfully nice of him. I'm a huge clips collector. That's probably my favorite thing to collect. Just to give you an example, Andrew's seen these things. I kind of have like my own sort of history, but they're all, you know, have all these clippings from like, you know, this is things I haven't mounted yet. These are from '74, you know, first album ad.
Awesome. Yeah. That's a great ad. Yeah.
This is a billboard from. Let me see if I can get the date on this.
Looks like it's on the
Might
back.
be on the back.
Right.
Yeah.
Is it written on the back?
May 18th, 1974.
Dang.
Wow.
One of the very first mentions in Billboard magazine.
And what's it saying? Just is it an album review or?
Looks like it's
And
about the
again,
Kiss Off.
it is, but it's two. There's this clip, which is from July 6th of 74, and then there's this one from, like I said, May of 74. Quickly, it says radio stations join Kissathon. Los Angeles, 12 major stations of top 40 radio are getting behind.
Awesome.
But who knew who Kiss was?
Right.
Nobody.
That's
Again,
so cool.
What I have is in order all of my clippings. Again, here's one from. Again, I just love sharing this stuff, and I hope that everybody watching at home.
Yes, they'll eat it up, man.
One January 26th,
Yep.
1974 from Billboard. That's
Wow.
right when they. And then June 8th from 74 when Kissin' Time was added to the first record.
So
Nice.
cool. So cool.
So that's what I mean. I have literally a living archive. And one of the reasons I love collecting this stuff is because when they wrote these articles in 1974, they did not have a 2016 perspective.
Right.
It's written for this week, and that's it. So any information is here is not building a legacy. Has nothing to do with except informing the reader of what's happening today. So when you go back from 2016, you can see they weren't great marketers. They didn't have a fucking clue. Gene and Paul are right. They said, we didn't know what we were doing. We're too busy trying to get, doing what we're doing. There was no grand scheme. They were just running it up the flagpole and waiting for someone to salute it.
Right.
That's all. There was no master fucking plan. There's the proof. There's the proof, man. And I love stuff like this. Two reasons for the musicians will love this. Gene playing a Fender.
Playing Fender.
Interesting.
Wow.
And it's a review from the brewery. From right before the Hotter Than Hell.
Did y'all read that headline?
Yep. Bitter taste.
Kiss leaves a bitter taste.
Yeah. Hold on, I got and here's an ad for the show.
Oh, shit.
Wow.
So cool.
God, that is cool, man.
Yeah.
Now, like I said, this is the stuff that thrills me as a collector. And again, it's hard. Number one, it's hard to collect.
Yeah.
Because this was in a newspaper in Lansing, Michigan for one day.
Right.
Back in 1974. So, you start talking about putting dollar values and crap. How the fuck you got to find someone who has that.
Yeah.
And then they either want it or they don't want it.
Right.
There's nothing else, but again, I'm a big history fan. I don't care if it's, Civil War or what. I just like reading history. And when I love something, like I love Kiss, I want to know everything about it. And there's the only way to do it is not read other people's books. It's to go back and read transcript, microfilm, newspaper articles, magazines, especially stuff early on, because what was the average length of a rock band back then? A couple years.
Yeah. At best. I'm
talking most bands, not, obviously the reasons the exceptions stand out, Aerosmith and ZZ Top. But think of all the, look at all the bands that opened for Kiss. JoJo Gunn didn't stick around a lot.
Right.
I mean, Fanny didn't last forever. By the way, when we had Alan on, who did that Japanese Kiss book, have you guys bought that, by the way?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
All three of you?
Yeah,
both versions.
Let me tell you, number one, what a great guest he was. He was a lot of fun.
He's a great guy.
Yeah, number two, a lot of just very knowledgeable. But that band Fanny, a little shout out to them. I like blues hard rock. Boy, those girls were good. They were on Casablanca. And the story that, originally that's who the people in Japan wanted to hook their wagons to was not Kiss. They only kind of took Kiss because Fanny was coming along with it. And then, to see that here's a band that didn't last very long, but wow, they were really good. Again, too, it's funny. The reason I mentioned JoJo Gunn is because I'm trying to remember the guy who came from that band, because was it? Jay Ferguson, Thunder Island? I think he was originally in Jay.
Right. Yeah.
I bought their stuff because I like his solo stuff. So I've got their little box set. And that, like I said, I'm just a big music fan, music collector. And, my friend used to tease me. He's like, you can tell that's not me.
Sorry, that was
me.
Mute your phone.
I did.
Yeah.
Well, I had it muted. It just it comes through my computer, so sorry about that.
My friends used to say you can tell a band sucks if you only have 2 of their records. Because I was always so all in. If I liked a band, I'd buy everything.
Right.
And then I'd start looking for bootlegs and
right.
And just a show like yours is very valuable to someone who's really into Kiss and wanting to find out more about it because there's so much to know.
Sure.
Get out the calipers. It's Kiss
What's
My
that?
Wax. Get out the caliper. It's time for Kiss My Wax.
Yeah, that's what you should have had her say, man. Get out your calipers. It's time. So what was that, Mark, that you said that Tommy, you were about to show something that Tommy got?
Yeah, Tommy is like, what? I don't have the passion for this stuff anymore as you do. And he just sent me his old scrapbook.
Oh, crap.
Wow.
So something he made and he just gave it to you?
Yeah, he's had it since he was a kid.
That is so cool. It's funny you mentioned that, man, because
it's funny because like a lot of these, I told him like I got a lot of the doubles of these, but he's like, I'm like, dude, how fucking cool was that of him to?
Yeah, totally.
I can't get this thing. Well, it's not on the same level, but
I got one in the other room. I got a scrapbook. It's from the '90s, but it was mine. There's a guy that's on our page. His name is Danny Dabbs, and he's one of those guys that I met through Kiss collecting. He's about, I think he's in the order of 6 or 7 years older than me, and I met him when I was like 11, and he was like 18, But he was like, I was one of the very few people around here that was into Kiss, so he let me come over and hang out and check out his stuff. And he had a huge, room full of Kiss stuff, and was featured in this particular magazine. There's a whole article in here about his collection and everything. And but anyway, when he sold all his stuff, and he's one of my very best friends to this day, he had this little scrapbook. And it had, he just made things and, cut things out. But as you go through here, there's tons of local Nashville articles.
That's the stuff that I collect.
Yeah.
Not so much the magazine pictures. It's
right.
The articles.
Right. And he would match, pictures up to particular. This is all Nashville stuff. Everything that happened in Nashville. That's the Creatures tour, his first show I saw. And he also used to have his ticket stubs in here as well. In fact, there's my ticket stub from the Creatures tour. But he used to have all his ticket stubs. The only thing he took out when he gave it to me was his ticket stubs. But, just every Nashville article that was in every Nashville paper. And he gave this to me because it wasn't anything that anybody would pay for when he sold his collection in the mid-'90s. So he was like, I just want you to have this stuff, Jason. But anyway, so I have something like that too.
That to me is the most fun stuff to collect. Just because you get so much information, and again, that's the reason I brought up Alan's book. For somebody who read as much as I have, the fact going through that book, I was learning stuff almost on every page.
Yeah,
I was like a sponge reading. I'm like, oh my god, that is just like so effing cool. I mean, in this day and age, you've been doing this all your life. It's cool when you get knocked out like that because it doesn't happen very often. So I don't know. Like I said, I just think it's cool that in 2016, you're still finding stuff out you didn't know before. You're still seeing stuff you didn't know ever existed, and that's the fun part of the internet. But of course, there's also the idiot part of the internet when you get people who think they're a little bit more seasoned than they actually are.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I spend time like sometimes correcting Kiss pages. They're like, "Oh, check out this photo from the Love Gun tour." I'm like, "No, this is from this time." So
I'm going to give you. Yeah. I'm just going to give you the analogy I use all the time. I live in Phoenix, Arizona. It gets to 80s into the 100 degrees. Okay. I have a friend that lives in Anchorage, Alaska. Every day he Googles what the temperature is. in Arizona. This goes on for a dozen years. The guy that lives in Anchorage, Alaska, wants to write a book on how oppressively hot it is in Arizona. He just tells you how the temperature. This is the temperature. This is the person who lived there, because they both know what the temperature was. But the person who lived there knew what the lack of humidity did. Knew what when it got windy. My point is, you can Google anything and find out information. But if you were there, you have a different take on it. And that's what it is with. I'm fortunate at being into Kiss from when it was. Before it was a big thing, to when it wasn't such a big thing, to when it was a big thing, down again, up again. I was on every single, for the most part, except for the very first few months, I wasn't aware of it, but that's it. So when I talk to people about certain things, especially the very first wave of when it was down, before Creatures, during the Elder,
Right.
You don't know. If you think you may know, but you don't.
Sure.
It was, the Elder was such a fucking joke at the time.
Jason's crying right now. He loves the Elder.
But no, it has nothing to do with loving it.
No, I know exactly what he's talking about. Yeah.
Not only were they no longer, if you're an American, were they no longer in Cream or Circus or Hit Parader, they were in 16. And Teen View and Teen This and Gene had short hair and Paul's wearing his mother's necklace, it looks like, and they're, I am just a boy. I'm like, this isn't fucking Hotter Than Hell. This isn't All American. What the fuck? Why am I staying? Keep in mind too, at the time, I'm collecting Heaven and Hell and and Mob Rules and in Double Live Gonzo and Scream Dream. What's my favorite band doing? What the fuck is that all? How I stayed a fan through that. It's funny though too. I stayed a fan. And then I got rewarded with Creatures, you know what I mean? And then the same thing through the 80s. I'm like, all right, I stuck through this crap. I'll stick through it again. And I kept going. I kept buying the records. And Revenge came out,
Thank God for that.
It's like I said, but the timeline is like this. The timeline isn't, I got into the band in 85 and, it may be your personal timeline, and that's fine with that, but it's not actually the way things went.
Sure, and it's interesting because it's age appropriate and perspective and everything. Because when I came into the game in 79, 80 as a very small child, it was all a visual thing to me, and the music was secondary. It quickly became primary, but it was secondary. So from a perspective of a 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old, as you're going from 80, 81, 82, 83, like that, we didn't have that perspective of a 16-year-old or a 20-year-old or whatever who's like, this is a joke. This is not what the previous 13 records were. To me, like John Humphrey said on our last episode, I'm that Kiss fan, and I came in at that age. He and I are about the same age. That Kiss could do no wrong. It didn't matter that it was, Love Gun to Dynasty to The Elder to Creatures. To me, that was all Kiss, and it didn't matter that it sounded completely different, and it didn't matter that one era was abandoning what the band started about. To me, it was the band. And so as I am 40 now, the whole history of the band, each era is just as important to me, and I don't look down upon anything like someone that you guys' age would when you experienced.
This is the example. Yeah. I bought this when it was new.
Right.
Okay. Shandy tonight.
No, I understand. I get it.
I was getting into this new wave of British heavy metal. Keep in mind, this was a new band, not the Iron Maiden that everyone goes, Iron Maiden. No, this is a new band. Right. This is a band that was opening for Kiss. That's, how I was made aware of them. I'm going to check them out. These other bands were eating their lunch.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I get it, totally.
When are you guys in Kiss, this is me back in 80, when are you going to realize what the Scorpions are doing? And these bands that used to open for you, Back in Black was fuck. This is a band that just opened for you 2 fucking years ago. what are you guys doing, you idiots? And that's, like I said, when the elder came, I remember, and I've told this story on 3 sides. Keep in mind, it's before cell phones. I put on the oath. And I was like, yeah, baby, we're back. I ran to my parents' room, which was next to mine. I have the oath just fucking cranked. Because, the very first vinyl version, right out of the gate, as soon as you put the fucking needle on. Run to the phone, yell at my buddy who's one of the few Kiss fans in my school. They're back. They're back. I'm doing like the next day in school. Like, how was I'm like, oh boy.
A brief euphoria, and it was over with.
Yeah, and now you know why they changed the track listing.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, man. Yeah, but that's if you got to go back and look at things when things were down, they did it to themselves. If you read that one Circus issue with Eric Carr on the cover with their birthday cake. There's a little thing in Kiss in the inside. They're saying they purposefully switching to a pop sound to try and get more radio airplay. Well, how'd that work out? all they did is they managed to piss off the people who put them there, and that's what they did. That's what they did to me. It's funny too. I'm hardly a Slayer fan, but I love the fact I was watching one of those Metal Evolutions, and I guess they have some kind of a new metal sort of. I'm not a big Slayer fan. I saw him a bunch of times. But he's like, that's our Turbo. And as a Judas Priest fan, when Rob Halford wanted to look like Bon Jovi and they started, I was like, what the it's so disingenuous. And that's what I thought of Kiss back in the early 80s. It was disingenuous. It was not the band I fell in love with. But, it's funny. All the ships, you look at bands like Judas Priest, they went back to Painkiller just a couple years later, and Kiss, Creatures of the Night. Just they found out where their bread is buttered. So yeah, so that's it, man. Any other questions?
Speak up, guys.
I mean, I don't have any questions, only because I've been to Mark's house so many times. So I've got to see and touch it firsthand.
Hey.
You did, huh? You're not supposed to share that.
Well, like I said, been in a relationship ever since. Been dating ever since.
For a long time.
That's funny. Well, you got anything, Tom?
No. I mean, I'm just absorbing it all.
Yeah,
great stories.
He's a great orator. He's a good storyteller. So
we got lots and lots. I'm hoping that Keith will have another convention. Hopefully, everybody here can make it. We'll hang out together and stuff.
Yeah. Well, we plan on going if he announces one. I keep hoping that he does. So.
Yeah, I do too. I tell you what, it was fun last May because I hadn't been to one for a couple of years. And, we're all hanging out in the bar and hanging out.
That's so fun.
It is, man. It is. I mean, it's nothing like the old days.
No.
I'll tell you a funny story. We went to, my friends all got to New York. This is early 90s. I snore really loud. Well, I don't anymore because I wear a CPAP. But my buddies all got to New York before I did. And I end up checking in like 5 hours later. They're already into the city and partying. They came back. And they had a rollout bed for me, so I'm fucking exhausted. I just drove, 12 hours. All of a sudden, I feel like myself fall out of bed. My drunken friends now had me out of the hotel room, trying to get me in the elevator that was on my rollaway bed because I was snoring so fucking loud. Now, those are the kind of things that used to happen at the old expo days. I mean, it was really the Wild West.
Yeah.
Not just, it was number one, because it was like all of us were coming from different parts of the country, and it was all guys. It was all, all you did was have fun and, party and want to go to New York City and act like an idiot. And that's the difference.
Yeah.
From the old conventions to the new ones. But, the new ones are still fun. You still hang out at the bar and stuff, but it's nothing like it used to be, because all the dealers all knew one another, especially after a couple of years, and you'd look forward to seeing everybody and just the craziness that would ensue. So
yeah.
There was still some craziness at the one this past one in Indy. There were still some funny things that happened. You know,
you had something fun happen.
Eric was picking on me all day.
Yeah,
literally all day over the PA, never stopped. So yeah, it got a bit much.
That was fun
for you guys. Like at the end of the day, I was like, all right, I've had enough.
It's fun.
I've had it. And there's actually, I mean, anybody watching this, they can just look up the Q&A. It's on YouTube, and there's some pretty good burns. He burns me pretty good. I think I got one burn on him, but he got like 72 on me, and he just kept on going all day. All day, man.
That's funny.
So is that it?
I guess, unless Mark wants to tell us some more stories.
No, trust me, you know what? Fuck it, 3 sides, we tend to go for, I don't know what the fuck is in the water lately. We're going like 3 fucking hours, and I'm like, oh my God. That's, real quick. Because if anybody's here's watching me because of 3 sides, they're always like, oh, your wife's bringing you food, you're hungry. I'm like, dude, by the time I start mentioning that, it's usually around 7 o'clock at night. Yeah. I haven't eaten, sometimes I wouldn't eat lunch. I haven't eaten since 5:30 in the morning. I rush home to get home at 5 to start fucking recording. Now it's after 7. My wife, we like to eat, I'm a big Italian fan. My wife wants to everybody eat dinner together.
Right.
And my kids are like, Dad's in the basement fucking talking to his other friends. Can we fucking eat dinner?
Dad's in the basement talking to the computer.
Oh, that's funny.
So that's really the backstory on that. But,
yeah, no, I get it. Yeah, I mean, we go a couple of hours occasionally. Yeah. So
our offline talks are
like an hour and a half. I'm like, this is at this point, normally we're just fucking, we stop yelling at each other. I know you guys do just like we did before we get on. It's always laughing at each other.
Oh yeah. Our after show conversations, which are usually as long as our show itself, are
I got 4 to 5 feet of 4 to 5.
They're a riot, man.
Yeah, but that's I tell you what, that's another fun part about doing this. We were just recorded the last one on Tuesday, and our guest, there was some stuff we really couldn't talk about, on air. And we went on for another 45 minutes after our 2.5 fucking hour talk, just because we wanted to talk about a bunch of other stuff. And it was like, oh my God. And then I play hockey on Tuesdays too. So here I am, we just spent almost 3 plus fucking 4 hours on this. I could get right up, go to fucking hockey, get home like, the next day I'm just a fucking piece of goo.
But according to Rock and Roll Over 48, you never exercise or anything like that.
That's right. I don't bike. I was gonna say Andrew's been. I got my recumbents at home. I'm on my bike all the time. I'm just a big guy. That's just it sucks. Nice genetics, Dad.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
That's like I was supposed to actually get hooked up with you guys, Mark, if you remember, at the bar up in Indianapolis, and I go in and I couldn't find you because the only time I'd ever seen you is on the screen, and in my mind, everybody's the same height as me on these screens. Okay, and what are you, 6'4", 6'5"? No. You look like you're that tall.
I'm 6'4".
Are you really?
Yeah.
Oh, he's big tall.
Yeah, me and Tom have been, at India. I'm a big tall guy.
Yeah, I'm only 6 foot. So I totally. I'm looking for guys my height.
Are you coming up again, Tom? You've worked around the area. When are you going to be up here?
Oh, up there. No, I don't know. Some point in time, maybe.
Yeah, you can see all this.
Yeah. Our headquarters are up. What you said, it's just right down the street from your house, isn't it?
Yeah, you said you're off of Harper Avenue, right?
Yeah.
I used to live off of Harper when I lived in St. Clair Shores, which is literally 3 miles from here.
Yeah. So I don't know. I haven't had a chance to go back up since. Trust me, the minute they send me up, I'm gonna get in touch with you.
It's funny. Your guest,
I'm riding with you.
John Humphrey came over. We went record shop. I don't know if he mentioned that at all, but
he didn't mention that. That's cool.
We went record shopping, took him to a record show. We went through my stuff. He saw, I love doing that. You guys have an open invitation,
Oh, that'd be great.
It's funny too, because I've had a few people, contact me. They're like, oh, I'm going to be, and don't get me wrong. I truly, honest to God, I am touched that someone would want to, but if I don't know you, it's a little bit different story.
It's a huge
coming to my house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I moved.
No, that's like I said, it's a blessing, on three sides. You just met so many people, and
Right.
you go to the conventions, you go on the Kiss cruise, and I love the fact, and everybody wants to talk Kiss, and there's nothing more I'd rather talk about.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Are you going on the cruise this year, Mark?
What do you think?
Well, I hope you are. Me and my family are going. I'd like to have somebody to hang out with. Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to be 6 for 6, baby. Yeah, I'm going.
All right.
I'm already booked. You already booked?
Oh yeah.
Sweet. Yeah, I tell you what. So this obviously be your first one.
No, I went on the second one. I went on the second cruise.
Oh, you did. Yeah. If I had to judge all the first 5, I thought the second one was the least amount of fun.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
I hate to be a wet blanket, but I was really not wild about. Seriously, I was wanting to hear a bunch of songs I hadn't heard in forever, and they played so much off Monster. I just wasn't really a fan of it.
Mm-hmm.
I guess looking back on it, okay, got to hear some stuff that they never play live now, but
No,
Kiss
I actually
3 was the most fun, in my opinion. Kiss Goose 3.
Which one?
Kiss Goose 3.
3 was the most. Yes, 3 to me was still the best. I think last year's was right up. Right, last year's was a lot of fun. The only one I thought was just okay. Keep in mind, just okay is still incredible. I thought 2 was just okay. I'm with Andrew. The third one, we were running around like fucking animals. I know someone was a little bit more of an animal than me that year. That's a Kiss My Wax After Dark episode there with Andrew.
No. I mean, it was wild, man. It was wild.
Yes, yeah. It was those are great. Those are some stories you should tell. I don't think you can tell them now.
Edit her out, and edit her out too, and edit her out, and edit her.
Really, I'm so glad you're going this year, Tom. We're definitely gonna kick a few.
Oh yeah. And it's going to be different for me too. My daughter's going with us, and she's 23, so we haven't been on a vacation in forever because she's been in school. So she's sitting out this year, and then she's going to law school next year. But this is going to be her first Kiss concert. So I don't know whether I'm going to tell her what's going to happen or not.
All these years, Tom, and you've never taken her to see Kiss?
No, she wasn't going to go. Man, she's a teenage girl. Okay, you've got it coming, man. No, how old is she?
I took my 8-year-old to see Kiss and sat in 7th row here in Nashville, and she loves Kiss. She comes in here all the time. So
well, you may be okay then. I was going to say try to get a 14-year-old girl to go to a concert with you. It's not going to happen.
My daughters went, but she, matter of fact, I have a funny story. When we went and saw them in Windsor, my son was 19 at the time, and my daughter was 16. And we got there, and the venue was 19 and over only. Well,
oh my gosh!
Fortunately, because it was Windsor Casino,
right?
But I thought the venue was separate. So we go to, we're in Canada. We're in another country. Granted, it's just across the river, but I'm with my daughter, and I'm going actually as a guest of Gene's, and I'm like, what the fuck? What do I do? Well, my one friend who worked for them at the time is like, just don't worry, I'll take care of it. So they asked for my daughter's ID. I said, well, just left it in the car. They're twins. Because my daughter was more grown for her age, if you wanted to put it that way. So she didn't look like she was 16. So she just hung with my son really tight, and they said, oh, we're twins. So she knows her brother's birthday, so she had to rattle that off a couple of times. But you know what? She went to the show. Matter of fact, that show was magical for me in some ways. We went and we did sound check, but we did sound check with the band, and we were the only ones in there. I mean, other than the people like setting up some chairs in the back. And when you're the only person during sound check, you're also the only person they can throw picks at.
Oh, nice.
Constantly. I must have had between my daughter and my wife sat like a few rows back. We're right up front. Keep in mind, we're in an empty arena. And my son and I were up as close as we could. And they're just whipping picks at us left and right.
Was that right before Sonic Boom came out, that show?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so I was at that one too.
Yep. So we're there, and that was the first time I'd seen them do Flaming Youth. And they were doing Zeppelin tunes, and they were doing Montrose tunes, and it was just so cool to hear that at volume, that, you know, the concert volume, they're doing sound check and running through all that stuff. Again, I've got bootlegs of them doing it, but seeing them being there doing it, so cool. So cool. And again, you know, I'm so fortunate as a Kiss fan to have done so many, and don't get me wrong, I'm far from a be all end all. I'm far from it, but more than most, you know what I mean? Being able to see stuff like that, and, you know, being able to collect like this, and meeting people and everything, you know what I mean? It's just so fucking cool. And again, that's what's so fun about going to the cruises, Tom, is there's so many other people who have those same sort of stories that you want to hear.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And
what's going to be different for me this time? You know, it was just me and my wife the last time. I mean, I ran into a couple of guys that I knew, but that was it. But man, I was not active on Facebook back then like I am now, and man, I got tons of friends around the world that are going to this thing. It's going to be nice to finally be able to meet them face to face.
Right.
And then you're going to wish you didn't do Facebook after that.
They're not the ones. There may be one or two guys out there, but they aren't the ones that make you not want to be on it.
It's not so much that, Tom. You know, doing the show just like you guys do your show. How do you guys handle when people want to be your Facebook friend? And it's not that I don't want to. It's that if you allowed everybody, I've got almost just followers. This is like almost 1,000, 900 something. Yeah. The only reason I don't friend everybody, but I keep mine public so anybody can check out and comment. That's cool and stuff. Other than that, though, you start adding people who you've just met through Kiss. Next thing you know, you find out they're food photographers. And my point is, Facebook for me should be people that you know.
Here's what I did. You know, since, I mean, you saw this. I just started this last week. I started my website to try to get some more music work for myself. So I add everybody now. I don't follow everybody because you could still be someone's friend but not follow their posts. So if there's someone who is just on there as a fan of Mr. Speeder or a fan of this show that I don't know personally, I just don't follow their posts. So I only see the posts of my actual friends.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I do the same thing.
I do the same thing. I just don't follow them, so I don't, you know, I see the people I care about seeing.
Yeah. I'll add anybody, and let's say appear to be an unattached female that has nothing to do with Kiss. I'm sure it's just spam, but I ain't having it. If anybody wants to ever check my phone, that's an argument I don't want to have.
Amen, brother. Amen, brother.
Well, you know, it's funny too, because I've someone that I met who's a fan on Three Sides started that appreciation society.
Right.
For me, Frederick, real nice guy, and of course we've never met. He's from overseas, but you know, that's cool that someone went to do that sort of thing, and then we became Facebook friends. But that's a little different than someone's like, hey, I like the show. You know, I've had people get mad at me. They're like, you know, this is the third time I've tried being your. I'm like, dude,
it's Facebook.
Look, I'm glad you like. Exactly. It's not that I don't like you. I don't know you, and you don't know me.
Yeah. Right.
That's all. I mean, it's cool that, you know what I mean. We have this. You know, every week, you know, 5,000 to 10,000 people hear the shit that we talk about on Three Sides. You know, so you get a lot of people who, you know, want to interact, and that's what you want. No different than you guys. You want people to interact.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, let's interact about the show. But when you start getting mad at me because I won't be your Facebook friend, guys, it's just, I don't know you. Know, like there's people that I ended up knowing. Fuck, Jason, you and I we talked a little bit before, and then had mutual friends. Then boom, you're okay. This guy's okay. But some people don't even get to that. They're like, you're an asshole because you won't be my Facebook friend, and I'm like, guys, look.
It's Facebook.
It's Facebook.
It's Facebook. That's right.
Yeah, that's really that's it. It's Facebook.
That's exactly right. So, I don't know.
All right. So,
well, do we want to cut it off?
Let's cut it off.
Let's cut it off. We're out. We're an hour and a half in. All right. Well, we just want to thank Mark Cicchini for stopping by and sharing some of his cool stuff with us. And you know, we just appreciate you, man, hanging out with us and just talking about all this.
Well, you know what? It was funny because just before you guys asked me to do this, I know Mike asked me, he's like, get Tom back on it because I love talking vinyl. Mike's a big guy that likes to talk vinyl too.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll interact again soon, I'm sure.
That'll be cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks to Mark, and thanks for everybody for watching, and we will see you on the next one.
Want more wax? Visit us at www.kissmywax.net, download the show on iTunes, or email us at contact@kissmywax.net.
And
are you going to play with your fucking hair the whole show?
The whole fucking show.
Hands down.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Okay.